Hey kids, this is Graham here at therecordingrevolution.com. Finally have a video review for you on Pro Tools 9. I'm going to take a quick look at 4 huge features I think that make it a great upgrade, 2 of which are the reasons I jumped to it, and 2 of which are kind of bonus reasons that will really help me and many of you in your mixes. But finally got around to upgrading. I'm going to be able to mix on it this weekend on a project, but I had a couple of days to just play around with it and take a look at some of the features that I think are huge, and really excited about what they're doing with this release. The number one reason to jump to Pro Tools 9 for me was no longer do you need an Avid or Digidesign piece of hardware attached to your computer for it to open. That means I can use any piece of hardware that I want. I can use an interface from Presonus or Focusrite or Apogee or RME. The list goes on and on and on. That's great for brand preference because there's a lot of brands you may like better, or also flexibility because that means there are more specific audio interfaces with very specific needs for your situation, as opposed to the few M boxes or the 003 line of products that existed with Avid. So now you have more choice, which means I think for the end user more flexibility, and you can actually spend less money because you don't have to buy what you don't need to get a few things that you do need. Also, it means you can interchange interfaces, so you can start with a small one, you can also pick up a bigger one, and you don't have to just replace it out. But the big news is also you don't have to have any interface plugged in. You can just run it on your Mac or PC with the built-in sound card. And that is really helpful if you're on a laptop and you need to do some quick drum edits before tomorrow's session, and you're in a hotel and you've left the gear set up at the studio or whatever, or you're on a plane. All those things you actually could work on. Hard drives are so small right now. If you had all your sessions on them, you can have a bus-powered drive, your laptop, and your Pro Tools 9 rig, and you just open up your laptop and start working on it. That's the number one reason I jump ship. Number 2 is automatic delay compensation. Now, this has been asked for Pro Tools users for a long time, and it's in almost every other major DAW out there. But for whatever reason, they only allowed Pro Tools HD users to take advantage of this, and it kind of made a lot of people want to upgrade to Pro Tools HD. But they've realized that it's just crucial for in-the-box mixing. And what I mean simply is you can have plugins that introduce delay on your track, and you may not know it, but if you have a plugin that you think sounds great, it may be in the background causing that audio to fall behind by a few samples because it just takes the audio longer to process. And then if you have multiple tracks that are starting to get delayed by plugins, all happening in the background, you're not seeing the audio file move in the edit window, but it's getting delayed, then your mix can start to sound kind of weird and fuzzy, and you lose a lot of that clarity. And then there's ways to manually fix that in Pro Tools LE in the past. You could put a delay plugin on every other track that wasn't delayed and delay it by the same amount so that they would all line up in theory. But that's a hassle, and I've done that, and a lot of people got fed up with it, and now it's built in. So for instance, I've got on this kick drum, I've got a plugin that's inducing, let's take a look, 485 samples of delay. Now that's a sizable amount of delay. And that means that a track like this shaker track, it doesn't have any delay, 0. So that means that if I press play, any track that has this plugin on it is going to be behind, let's say, the shaker and other tracks by 485 samples. And that's just with one plugin. If I start to add different plugins that introduce different delay amounts, it gets confusing. But if you see up here in the playback engine menu, now you have a delay compensation engine option. You have the short and long versions, just like Pro Tools HD. And so if you take a look at my view here, I will let you see the delay compensation view. You can see now these 2 tracks have the same plugin. They're introducing 485 samples of delay. This track has got 2 samples of delay, so it's compensating 483 to make an even 485, so that they will all play together. All these tracks are compensating the same amount that they need to so they can line up nice and easy. And it does all the math for you. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. And it basically allows your tracks to sound nice and focused and crisp like you wanted them to before you added plugins. Those are the 2 big reasons. The other ones I just want to show you I think are just really cool. A, you get more tracks. Pro Tools LE used to be 32 tracks max that were audio, and then they upped it to 48 audio tracks. And now you have up to 96 audio tracks. You also can have all the instrument tracks and MIDI tracks pretty much that you want. More buses, all that stuff is excellent if you're doing complex mixes. One cool thing is the new send to a bus feature. They really sped this process up. For instance, if I send tracks to a reverb, track. I have like an aux track here with a reverb on it, and I want to send like my vocals and my snare drum to the same reverb. I used to have to build this track and then set its inputs and outputs, put a reverb on it obviously, and then find my tracks and create a send, find the same bus to route to it. Not hard, but it just took up a few seconds. Now Pro Tools has sped that process up completely. Let's say that I don't have this reverb track and I want to create a new reverb track just for my vocals and send it to it. Instead of creating that track first, I can just come to my vocals and say I want to send. Instead of to a bus, I'm going to choose a new track. Send to a new track that doesn't exist yet. This is much like your track creation menu. I want it to be a stereo aux input, and I want to give it a name, Vox Verb. And I can have it create this new aux input right next to my vocal track, which is great. Click create, and it made a brand new aux that's already got its input set that matches my send. It's got the default output. All I have to do is slap a reverb on there, and my send is right here. I can start sending it to it, and that is phenomenal. That just saves me time. I don't have to label inputs and outputs. It's just a clever thing that I think they just sped up some workflow. I love that. The other feature I love is finally MP3 bounce. So back in the day, when you want to bounce to disk, you could choose Wave. You could choose MP3, but after a couple of MP3 bounces, they would say, hey, please send us $30 to upgrade to the MP3, plug-in or whatever. And that's just a waste of money, so I never did that. Now they give it to you for free. I know it's kind of sad to be thanking them for something that should be free anyway, but it's free now. And so now I can do a quick bounce of it straight to MP3. You can choose the quality as high or as low as you want. So you have a lot of flexibility there in terms of what type of bit rate and stuff for the MP3. And that way I can throw it up on Dropbox for my clients without having to do an extra step of converting a WAV file to an MP3 and just making redundant files. So I love that. Thank you, Avid. In general, it's a much more robust program. You have a lot of the pro features we've been wanting from Pro Tools HD now in a native version without having to jump onto an HD package. And I think it makes a much more professional DAW. And for people that use Pro Tools day in and day out that wanted those features, that maybe looked at other DAWs for a time because they had the features they needed, but they liked Pro Tools workflow and they liked their Pro Tools RTAS plugins, now you don't have to make that sacrifice. You can stay in Pro Tools all day long, and it's finally a more modern DAW, but it still has all the things that you love about Pro Tools all in one program. So that's Pro Tools 9 in a nutshell. If you haven't jumped on it, these might be reasons for you to. Maybe not yet. I waited a few months. Just whenever you do get it, you know you're getting a much better DAW. Hope that helps you guys out. Again, this is Graham here at therecordingrevolution.com. Thanks for checking out these videos. Please subscribe on the YouTube channel so you are up to date on new videos. And if you have a Twitter account, follow me on Twitter at RecordingRev. I'm posting things all the time, new articles, new things and tips that are on the blog that aren't on YouTube. And if I do any giveaways or stuff like that, I like to do it on Twitter a lot of times. So please follow me on Twitter, and hope you guys are making some great music this week. We'll talk to you soon.